Welcome. Are you looking for a tool to help you plan out your cycle counting program? When I mean planning out your cycle counting program, I'm talking about determining which parts to count on which days so that you fully cover all your A, B's, and C's with the frequencies that you've predetermined throughout the year so that you can complete your cycle count in a controlled and structured way. Well, then you've come to the right place because we have the tool for you. Let's take a look. So here we're looking at our cycle planning tool kit. And the first step that you're going to have to go through is you're going to have to gather up all the parts that you are going to want to cycle count throughout the year. And you're going to need to paste them onto this inventory master spreadsheet right here. Now, column A is obviously for your part number. B is for your part description. C is optional for you, but in this instance, we have gathered up the units that were consumed during the past 12 months as an example, so that we could sort the parts by our highest to lowest units consumed, and then that is the way that we are assigning our A, B, and C codes. So that's what's over here in column D. So column D is not a optional column. You have to assign all your A, B's, and C's. But again, step one is getting your part numbers and part descriptions, as well as whatever metric you want to use to assign the ABC codes in column C. And let's move on. So once you have the part numbers on the inventory master, you need to spend some amount of time determining how many counts you're going to want to conduct during the year. And that's going to be based on the number of days that you're going to be able to cycle count, the number of parts, and the frequency. So here in this section over here, this is kind of where you're going to start to plan that out. So we've already assigned A, B, and C codes to all our parts over here in the inventory master. So we've selected 8 times per year for the A's, 4 times for the B's, once for the C. Now over here, since we've already assigned our codes, this column here, or this formula up here, is going through and it's counting the number of parts that we have assigned to each one. So you can see here, if we have 8, if we're going to have a frequency of 8 times per year on our A parts, and we assign 100 parts with that A code, that means we're going to have 800 A part counts during the year. And if we do 4 for the B's, we're going to have 1,000, and then once a year for the C's, we're going to have 650. So that all totals about 2,500 parts. So you need to kind of go through the math and think about, hey, you're probably going to have, around 200, 250 days, working days during the year that you're going to be able to be doing cycle counting. So obviously, if you have about 250 days and you have 2,500 counts, that means you're going to have about 10 counts per day if your stockroom people are able to keep up with this program. So you have to ask yourself, how many people do we need to do 10 cycle counts per day? And you'll have to figure that out on your own. It depends on probably how much investigating they have to do. But I would think that that's probably a tall order for one person, especially if they're supposed to get all this done early in the morning before manufacturing gets going. But you'll have to look at all the constraints that you have around that. But again, this is counting the number of codes, and you can just adjust it here. So you could say, well, maybe that's too much. Maybe I'm just going to do 5 here and 2 here, right? And then now you've got something more along the lines of 1,700 counts during the course of the year. So that's obviously going to be less than 10. But I'm going to leave this where I have it originally and just move forward. Just suffice it to say you got to assign all your codes before you can start to get to what your number looks like. Do note that if you don't put anything into that column, then that part is not going to be part of the count. So a blank just equates to a none, just FYI. Probably don't even want to have those parts if you're not going to be counting them on this inventory master sheet, but you can if you want to. So once you have this set up and you're comfortable with the quantity of parts that you're going to be counting during the year, next we need to build out our calendar. Now over here, just kind of moving over to the calendar, this app is going to build out this calendar for you based on the constraints that we're going to build out right now. So over here under plan assumptions, you want to put in kind of the start and the end dates. Here I've just set this at from January 1 through the end of the year for 2025, so the full 365 days for the year. So that is the timing or the beginning of the count and the end of the count. And then over here you can put in what days you're planning on counting. So in this example, we're not going to be counting on the weekends, so Sunday and Saturday are both false, and here just kind of arbitrarily we said, hey, we're not going to count on Wednesdays. I'm just doing that for this example. And then we're going to be counting on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So every day, every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and Friday, there will be a count, except then moving over here, you can plug in what your holiday schedule is over on this page. So for example, we are planning on counting on Thursdays. That's a true, but over here we have identified that Thanksgiving in 2025 falls on, obviously the Thursday that always falls on November 27th. Now, the cycle count plan will not build out a day for Thursday, Thanksgiving, 11/27. Now, if you want to add to this or decrease, you can just decrease it by deleting days. And then this is a little dynamic table that automatically builds itself as you go ahead and put more days on here. So say if you wanted to put in, say, 11 or December 27th as a cycle count day, you could put that right here. And then this would be another day that you don't do your cycle counting on, if that's your holiday schedule. Now I've just created this as just kind of a typical holiday schedule for 2025 based on the days that these events fall on. And again, we'll take a look at Thanksgiving here when we build out our plan. All right, so once you have your days of the week, the year, the holidays all set up, then you need to build out the calendar that the program, the cycle counting plan program, is going to use to build out your actual part number plan. So all you do is just go to this function, hit build calendar, and then it'll go ahead and build out your calendar. So based on the constraints that we put in, it has 201 days. So you can come over here and you can look over here at the calendar. And now if we were to scroll down here to November, down here that we're going to be doing a cycle count. These are all the days we're going to be cycle counting. So it's got the dates, the day of the week, and a sequential number that it's assigning. And here you can see 11/27 is a Tuesday. Now the 26th is a Wednesday, and as you recall over here, we put that we weren't going to be doing cycle counts on Wednesday. So there's no Wednesday. And then Thursday is a holiday, and so is Friday, which is again over here. These are the 27th and the 28th, so it ignores those days in the planning calendar, and then the next day is going to be on Monday the 1st. So that's how this program uses these dates to build out this cycle counting calendar, which is just basically the working days that you're going to be counting on. Now, if you wanted to, it just rebuilds the calendar very quickly. Let's say we were going to decide that we were going to count on Wednesdays and all the weekdays, and we'll go ahead and we'll rebuild the calendar. All you have to do is just click this and it rebuilds the calendar very quickly. So now we're up to 253 days. So that is going to reduce the number of cycle counts per day. So that's something you could play with if you think that 10 cycle counts per day is too much for your given staff. But we're going to go back to what we had before. We're going to set this to false, and we're going to move on to the next step. But this now assumes that You've set your calendar. You have all your ABC codes set. So now with our calendar set and all our parts assigned, now we're going to go ahead and build out our actual cycle counting detail plan. Now that's going to end up on this cycle count plan worksheet here. And again, this is a table, a defined table. Now I've deleted all the rows currently in here. You don't need to worry about that going forward, because when you go ahead and you select build the cycle count plan, it's going to delete everything in here. Now it's only going to fill out these first 3 columns with the date, the part number, and the part descriptions. Now I've added some additional columns here that you can use if you want to. But just know that if you do decide to start using these columns to track how your cycle count plan is doing, that if you go back and you rebuild your plan, it's going to delete all these rows. So you'll want to take this cycle count worksheet and move it someplace else, and then rebuild your new cycle count plan based on whatever assumptions and days that you want to use. So going back over here, we have our frequency set, we have our calendar set. Now all you need to do is just click Build Cycle Count Plan. Now it comes up with this little dialog, and I'm just going to speed through the progress here, but I'm going to click Start, and then it's going to build the table out. Okay, so there it is. We built out 1,000 records, and now if we go to our cycle counting worksheet, here it is over here. So if I scroll down to the bottom, you can see there's all the counts. The 2,450 counts of all our parts have been programmed out for the entire year. So if we wanted to take a look at our schedule, you could sort, say, by date and then by part, and then you'll start to get some ideas to what this looks like here. So here's this part here. So this must be a B part because there's 4 counts. And then this workbook uses an algorithm to try and randomly distribute the counts throughout the year so that you don't so that you're not counting the same part multiple times in one month. And it uses a little data structure to go through and do that. Now again, you can use these other columns over here if you want to. This little workbook doesn't do anything with these other columns. It just assigns these columns over here, but they're there if you want to use them. Now, this is pretty handy if you wanted to give your stockroom staff, say, the March cycle counting plan. You can just go over here and just use the little filtering commands. And then again, this is already filtered for March, and you can just go ahead and sort by date, and there it is. They've got their plan for March 3rd, March 4th, so on and so forth all throughout the month. And it looks like they're going to be doing quite a few counts. But let's see how many that is. That looks like that is 205 counts for the month of March. And again, you could have them put information over here on the right so that they know how they're doing. If you have some kind of tolerance where you want them to go back and count a second time, you could count all that in here. But you don't want to give them the perpetual balance that's in the system until they've come back with their count, which would be the first count. More on that if you go ahead and you read on our website on how to do cycle counting. Okay, so in addition to the plan assumptions, the inventory master, the calendar, the cycle counting plan, we also added in a little pivot table here for looking at your cycle counting plans. Now in here, it's just a super simple pivot table. So here's the cycle count plan that we just looked at a minute ago. So I've just brought down the parts, and I put the ABC codes on the filters, and you have the months going across it, and then you do the part counts. So here it's just counting up the B parts. You can see how many B parts you're doing per month. That's not going to be perfectly uniform, but it's pretty close. Here it's kind of in between. What's the largest one? 96, and the lowest is 67. But these were all randomly distributed throughout the month, so it's going to be a pretty close workload. And if you wanted to, you could tweak it over here manually if you want to adjust things around a little bit. But anyways, this allows you to look at the whole cycle count plan and make sure that all your A's and B's and C's are being counted with the frequency you want. Now, one nice thing about this is that there is a calendar in here that has quite a bit of capability. So depending on if you want to look at this by day or by week or by month, you can do that over here. Right now, I just have it set on this monthly dimension where it just has the year and the month. That's what's over here in the columns right now. So if you want to change that to a different metric, feel free. So that is most of the detail around this handy dandy little tool. Go ahead and, if you're watching this on YouTube, look down below and find a link to get your own copy of this. It's all for free. Now there is macro coding behind this, so you're going to have to create a directory where you can have a macro enabled workbook, because without that macro it's not going to do much of anything for you. If you want to get access to the code, reach out and give us a call and we'll try and discuss how you can get access to the actual VBA code that's running all this. Until then, give us some feedback. Thank you for your attention. Good luck and have fun.